Welcome everyone to interview number 22 of OC Improvement Month. Today with xootynator. Once again, hello.
Hey, I'm back again to invade OC University.
Let's go. So, your only interview for OC Improvement Month, but I've snagged you many times for interviews of many various kinds. You have quite the brain up there. So,
You're pretty good at picking it, so
oh well, that's good to hear. So, just in case anyone is not familiar, could you give a brief intro to who you are in the community and what people probably recognize you for?
well, basically I'm xootynator, and I've been I guess pretty well-known figure in the OC community and the streaming scope for quite a while now. I play OSU, as you know. Um, I have a pretty gimmicky playstyle, I'd say, with full area and having a community surrounding full area. I play competitively for Team Canada as well, and I am Epic Gamer Pro. Yes.
So, yeah, I think a lot of people know you for a lot of things. There's full area. I think you were one of the sort of leading people in that field, so to speak. And also being Canadian, you're pretty good at doing that.
Yeah.
And you're on the World Cup team once again, which I think we'll start there. It's more of a current event right now, but how do you feel about the World Cup this year? We're in 2022, and for context, as we were recording this, the qualifiers has just finished, and we are entering the first round of bracket stage. So the bracket has been seeded, and now we're sort of speculating who the strongest teams are after qualifiers and all the good stuff. So could you give us a quick rundown on the Canadian team this year and also your speculations as to how the tournament will go?
Yeah, so overall, well, I think every single year a lot of people are excited for OWC, and especially the people that are playing in it. It's nice that we have a new addition to the team this year who is Sari, who's showing a lot of promise and is a really cool person, so I'm glad she's there. We have a lot of kind of our core members from Canada that have played year over year, which I am one of them. And I have, a lot of hope for the tournament this year around with Azer's new epic pooling and the changes that they're trying to make it more interesting. It seems like it's pretty fun so far, I'd say. In terms of seating and stuff, there were definitely some surprises. We're seeing a lot of the kind of, I guess, staples per country. A lot of people chose not to play this year, but that I think is making things really interesting because one thing that really surprised me was the Malashevsky carry for Poland number 2 seeding,
Oh,
right? That was crazy. Like I thought we were going for top 3 obviously. We got I think second last year and we were looking for number 1 this year, not going to lie, but
in the qualifiers,
number
right?
4 is pretty good. Yeah, in qualifiers. So we're in a pretty good spot. We're number 4, but even with a lot of changes for a lot of teams and their rosters, like I think it's going to be really spicy this year.
Yeah, there's something about Poland where they either don't place on the podium at all, like they don't even get close to top three, and then if they do, then they're just like insanely crazy and scary. So that, where do these players come from?
They literally just spawn. Like I didn't really know anything about Malashevsky, who some people might know him as Ristel from a while back. I didn't know much about him since until last year when actually in Corsace Open we played against this team for third place, and like that creature literally single-handedly carried his team all the way to the top. Like that is Polish Vaxe. A lot of people are scared of him, right?
Yeah, I was thinking the phrase Polish Vaxe myself,
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, that guy's awesome. So
Mm-hmm.
you've been around for quite some time, especially with tournaments. So over the years, I'm curious your thoughts on sort of how map pools have grown and progressed over the years and your thoughts on the different eras of quote unquote map pooling, I guess.
Yeah. So I started playing tournaments, I'd say seriously kind of in like late 2019 because I was trying to get onto the ODPC Canada team and it didn't happen until 2020. But since then, I think every year we kind of notice that there's the baseline skill level or like the skill cap in tournaments keeps rising even to this day. Like you'd think there'd be a limit by now to how good we could be in tournaments, but every single year it seems like players and tournament staff and poolers they're pushing the boundaries of what's possible. Um, but not only that is I think there's a lot more variety now than there was before, especially with the custom mapping scene. I'm someone that really likes custom maps, because I think they can test way more. So I think it's like going to a better place, basically.
So, what is a custom map? How do the map rollers pick maps in the first place? And then what role does custom maps have in that?
So generally, we have kind of standard pooling, where every single skill set in OSU should ideally be represented by these mod slots in a map pool. So we have things like Nomad 1 through 5 or 6. We have hidden maps, we have hard rock maps, and DT maps, and sometimes remod maps. So something like Nomad 1, this is, some people know this already, but something for Nomad 1 would be testing your aim capability and your skill cap for your aim and how good it is. But a lot of tournaments are kind of pushing it and adding more reading and even some tapping to just have it like more of a rounded skill set. Like I think they want to balance all these mod slots
You
more
can't
rather
see
than
it,
just
but
focusing on one
I'm
thing.
giving a thumbs down right now for adding tapping to my Nomad one.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The OWC qualifier map, the Nomad one had a fair bit of tapping for some people, but that's all we gotta learn, right?
So, yeah, I think especially from 2018, late 2018, I'd say, all the way through, I guess, pretty much now still, the map pool structure, as you mentioned, is very standardized, where you essentially have the same skills, like same exact type of map, basically, in every single pool, just with like different songs or like slightly different variations. But this year for the World Cup, the map pooling team is trying to really kind of almost go back to when it was a little less structured and you still did have a bit of each skill set, but it was a lot more variable as to the types of maps that you could see. So some maps that were actually pretty cool, but didn't quite fit in the template are sort of up for grabs for the map pooling staff.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that because actually some of my favorite maps of all time in tournaments have been from like OWC. So if they can, put out some more really iconic maps, like I think one of the most iconic maps from OWC, a lot of people know is Sputnik. I'm not sure how
Oh,
many people know that was actually from OWC, but
right.
stuff like that, like that was really pushing the boundaries is what I'm looking forward to this year.
Yeah, that was a custom map for OWC 2020. Yeah, 2020.
Yes.
So, regarding the Canadian team, you mentioned Sorry and sort of the Canadian team in general. I'm curious how the team is typically picked and what you guys look for in your players.
Yeah, so without giving out our entire strategy and everything, we definitely have our core players, which I think is something that most teams look for is people that are well-rounded and can play like a significant amount of the map pool per stage. So people like me, Frankie, Nick, and Ryan, who's Ryuke, and obviously our captain Jay, were all generally like well-versed in every skill set except me with speed. And then we kind of try to slot in what we call our specialty players, so people who we can fit in who are almost like not like one tricks per se, but they're really good at a specific skill set that could boost us higher, boost our entire score, right?
So, let's say I'm a Canadian player and I want to play on the World Cup. What do I need to do? Let's say I'm sort of rising through the ranks right now. I'm like kind of upper 5 digit, feeling pretty good about myself. What am I supposed to do to get on that stage and play with you guys?
I think I'm not the one that makes the final decisions in the end, but I have talked with Jay, especially when we're trying to figure out finalizing rosters and things, and definitely players that stick out to us are people that first of all have consistency because that's something that's really important in something like OWC. You want to be able to put out relatively at least the same score every time so that you can get a good idea of what you're good at. Um, and people who can just really excel at one skill set, kind of like what I was saying with specialty players. If they can show that they're really, really good at one thing, and it doesn't have to be everything, right? As long as you're really good and consistent at that one thing, you were gonna have your eyes, or we're gonna have our eyes on you, basically.
And another thing, so I'm looking at the top Canadian rankings right now and comparing it to the World Cup team, and there's a bit of a difference between those two lists. The rank one Canadian player in the entire wide universe is not on the team. So is that like what's the difference between being good in single player and being good in tournaments and being sort of competitive for the World Cup team?
So there's been a lot of discussion. I think it's kind of a big topic about how sometimes if you play too many tournaments, you can almost feel stagnant because tournaments aren't necessarily pushing your skill cap, but kind of testing you at what you're already good at. So there's a lot of people on the Canadian top rankings list that just focus on solo play and not really tournaments. And someone like Eterna, who is our number one player, I don't think has like maybe played less than 5 tournaments in his entire life. I don't know if even. Um, so yeah, we definitely have a lot of people who are really good in solo, and we have a lot of people who are really good in tournament play. And our tournament scene in Canada is already pretty busting, so we have a lot of variety.
On a similar topic, someone sent in a question for you. They said, "Would you ever consider captaining the Canadian World Cup team?"
Yeah, so small story actually. I don't know if I remember this exactly, but basically when Azer stepped down as captain in 2020, he was retiring from OWC. He was done. I wanted to captain, but I think it got passed down to Ryan, and then I believe Ryan actually backed out. He didn't play in not 2020. I think it was 2021. I'm kind of mixing up my timelines, but basically, I got passed down to Ryan, and then I wanted to captain after that, and so did Jay at the same time, who's our current captain, Xylus. Um, but I actually let go of my chance to be captain because I really wanted Xylus to be captain because I think he's really good and really motivated. So I would in the future. I really want to captain, but I think our captain right now is like excelling at his duty.
Okay, that's actually an interesting story because I actually had a similar experience in 2018. I was playing a lot of tournaments with a bunch of other US players. That was the River Conquest era.
Oh
So
yes.
at that time, I was the one like sort of I guess the most organized when it comes to scheduling and things like that. I helped organize everyone's schedules because we were all in like 10 tournaments at the same time, something crazy like that. So throughout that year, like as World Cup season rolled around and we were discussing captains and things like that, and I was like, who's gonna be captain this year? And Apraxia was like, you lol. And I was like, okay, that's cool. So then the World Cup team was finalized, and then Apraxia was like, yeah, I said you were going to be captain, but we kind of lost last year, and I want to be captain when we win. So, yeah, sorry, Habib." And I was like, okay, yeah, I don't really care. So,
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of people that are capable usually in a team format because a lot of people know how the whole shebang goes with tournaments, but it's whatever for me.
so what is the point of being the captain? Like, aside from scheduling and generally like managing the like external factors when it comes to the tournament, but for the match itself, what's the point of being the captain? Like, do you sort of have the executive final decision with everything, or is it more of just a title that doesn't really mean that much compared to any other player?
Honestly, I have big respect to those who captain. Like, I've been captains for teams that have won before. I have been on teams with captains that have led us to winning. People that I really look up to is, like I said, our current OWC captain Jay and even Fiery Rage. They have actually literally proven to be kind of like our rock string match. They don't let us lose mental. They kind of bring us up. They're very focused and organized and have a game plan for us, which can be really important when you're in a match because you don't want to make these last minute decisions that could literally throw the match one way or another. So they're organized in way more ways than one rather than just scheduling and picking out maps to pick, right?
So sort of being the the leader or like the example for everyone else in the team to follow, especially during match when it comes to mental and things like that and sort of environment.
Yeah, and it's extremely powerful, I think, in a team situation.
So you mentioned consistency a little bit. There was someone who sent in a question specifically to you, actually. They said, to xootynator, hi, first, I hope you're doing well. Happy face. Anyways,
Oh,
my question is, how does someone like myself, 140k rank, get more consistent? Is it something developed over time, or are there methods you use to help this?
consistency is like a weird word because I feel like everyone has their own idea of what consistency is. Like, to me, consistency is just being good enough at something where you can kind of put out the same performance every time. So, for me, back in the day, I used to be kind of a little bit of an aim one trick. But I would just play these kind of long maps. I just play them through the end every single time. Like, I don't know, it's just something that I've literally ingrained into myself. It just through repetition is what made me consistent, I'd say.
So yeah, I think that definition is relatively it's relatively popular, where consistency is basically just kind of being good enough to play that map like on a consistent basis. But what about play? So specifically for someone who's lower rank who wants to practice consistency, but also doesn't have the highest skill cap in the grand scheme of things, is it something that you should start working? Like, are there certain habits that you can build to make sure that you don't lose consistency too much or become very inconsistent? And are there specific things you should focus on in order to balance both being consistent and also having a higher skill cap?
But definitely a big question. And I think it's really unique to you as an individual. Like, I think there's times where you can push your skill cap and even have fun, like playing really silly maps that are maybe outside of your star range a little bit. But I think honestly, doing stuff like literally farming and being able to have nerve control to get to the end of maps and be able to have really high combos and just practice doing that as well. Like there's some kind of balance where I'm trying to say it's kind of a big question. You can like balance skill cap and consistency at the same time if you really have a good regime.
Yeah, I think one big thing is probably, especially for tournaments, I think having that sort of like multiplayer mindset, so to speak, where
Mm.
you're kind of thrown at you whatever map gets picked, and you sort of course, don't have any chance to retry and things like that. So, yeah, I think that there's a similar question in the forum that says, for those who want to be at the very, very best when it comes to tournament play, like they want to have super high skill cap and be super, super well rounded, which one would you focus on first? Would you rather sort of spread your wings across all different skill sets before pushing your skill cap, or would you rather have a super linear skill set and push it super, super far before then finally branching out?
I have two bits to say, and one thing is that tournaments, at least when you're starting to get into tournaments, what map pools do with all the variety of skill set that's in one map pool, is it will show you like very obviously what you're good at and what you're bad at. So you can use that information to go into solo play and kind of focus on expanding those skill sets and expanding your weaknesses. But the second bit is that the people right now who are the best in tournaments are actually people who are also the best in solo play. So they already have an insanely high skill cap. So if you were just really good at the game and then you get into tournaments, you're probably gonna have a lot better of a time basically to start exploring different skill sets and things.
Yeah, I would 1000% agree with what you said about like playing map pools to sort of overall, like basically test your skill set and figure out what exactly you're weak at, especially from a tournament perspective. Sometimes tournaments have certain skill sets that are tested that if you were just kind of playing the game casually, you probably wouldn't even really recognize that there's maps out there that are like that. So,
Mhm.
and on a somewhat similar note, I think that's one of the reasons why the World Cup team is actually trying to stray away from that sort of like structured formatting. But yeah, anyway, I do definitely agree with that like sort of testing yourself with map pools. Do you feel like you improve the most when you're really actively playing a lot of tournaments, or when you're actually like I guess not in that many and don't have that many map pools to really focus on?
Um, well, for the past 2 years, I've literally played a tournament every single weekend, but especially the last year, 2022, I've felt extremely stagnant because usually when I get on OSU, the only thing I'm doing is practicing for a tournament or actually playing a tournament. It's like we have the work weekend as an OSU player. Um, so I haven't been able to, like, really push myself, so I'm kind of reducing my tournament play right now so that I can actually focus on skill cap again.
So something somewhat related to consistency. I know there's a perspective that some people have that consistency is basically the same as your aiming skill, or that it's the same as your reading skill, but I want to sort of hone in on aim specifically for you because I think a lot of people, well, at least me when I play against you, I sort of know that like even if we have like decent like similar potential on some of the maps in the pool, it's like I'm just gonna get hard out consistency on aim stuff, and I I want to relate this to full area. There's a lot of area related questions here, which I think should come as no surprise. But I do want to touch specifically on the experience that a lot of people have when they're switching over to full area. And I know you yourself started on full area from the beginning, but I'm sure you've had a lot of experience seeing other people switch and having people come to you for questions. So I'm curious if you have any insight on how, when a lot of people switch to full area, they find that they just can't quite move fast enough. Are there specific, I guess, ways that you try to, or I guess advice that you give as far as being able to, I guess, move with enough agility and precision without having super sloppy aim on, especially on these like really high star rating and really big full screen jumps?
Yeah, so I'll just say quickly, if you're in my Twitch chat right now, I actually have a exclamation point technique command which kind of explains how I personally, with my grip, kind of approach full area, and I just imagine it as kind of an XY grid on my tablet. It's kind of a big explanation, but the entire point of that is basically you're finding a way to min-max your movement based on your grip. So what I explained in that technique clip is how I min-max my movement in order to do these really big spacing jumps because yeah, I like aim. You know, I've seen things like Union, which people wouldn't really think a full area player would have enough like right arm stamina for, and things like Tsukinami I want FC too. So, definitely just have that thought, like, lingering in your mind. You can also have that for your tapping hand too, just min-maxing your movement kinda thing, and just finding out what's good for your musculature and your anatomy.
I think that that makes a lot of sense actually, just kind of adapting to your sort of grip in that sense. So
Mhm.
yeah, are there any other like really common questions that you get regarding switching to full area or things like that?
Um, I'm not sure exactly, but there is one that popped into my head where people ask if you should drag or hover, and I'm actually I'm pretty sure I'm in the minority for full area where I actually hover my pen. I know a lot of people in full area drag, but that's an entirely different grip than mine. So like j- literally just finding what's comfortable for you in that grip because full area is a lot of work. You have to use your bigger muscles. You don't just focus on your hands. So it's definitely something you just gotta jump into. I imagine it like riding a bike, you know, you just kinda gotta go and figure it out.
Someone asked a cursed question. I don't even know if I should utter these words, but I'm gonna go for it. They said, "When will you commit and join small square area gang?"
No, there's a particular human on the Canadian OWC team who plays with a square area and everyone points their finger at them. If you know, you know, but I will never.
Have you ever like tested a smaller area? Let's say you were at someone else's setup and you just kind of like played a map or two with it, or have you like strictly only ever played with a big area?
I have messed around with it. Like I've played full area on a like 470, which is basically the smaller version of this Wacom tablet that I'm using. And like, I don't change my area that much, so I don't know how it's supposed to feel, but usually I can pick it up pretty quick because I already have all this range of movement. I just have to minimize it a little bit.
Interesting. Uh, okay. I think if we ever meet up, okay, no, I'm joking.
Don't you have a tiny ass area?
Me?
Yeah, I don't remember actually.
It's like medium size. It's like medium. Well, okay, it's medium relative to, I guess well, okay, maybe it's medium small. I think we should change the topic. So someone sent in a question. They said, should I learn streaming as a high six-digit player or focus on some other field like reading? So I think this ties into what skill sets are the most important for people to learn, and are there any skill sets, or when they're beginners, and are there any skill sets that you feel like people shouldn't touch until later on? I think by high six digit here, I assume they mean 100k 200k ish. I know there's like different interpretations of high six digit where
Yeah, I
uh,
thought the opposite.
yeah, I'm not quite sure. But I think maybe you can touch to both people who are super, super new and then people who have maybe like 3K, 4K, or even like 5K. Well, I think by 5K, you're doing pretty well for yourself. But people who are still sort of breaking into like the 5-star range and such, what advice would you give for them as far as the skill sets that they should really focus on in the beginning?
Yeah, so I think it's a time definitely to expose yourself to skill sets. Do not take that out of context. To different skill sets that are offered in the game, and you can kind of find out what you like really quick. Like I was saying literally earlier, I was just an aim one trick for a really, really long time. But what I did was I basically abused what I was good at, and it led me to be good at other things. Like my aim was really good, so then I started getting into tech a lot, and the tech was helping me with my reading even. So just focusing on one skill set isn't really a bad thing when you're starting out, in my opinion. But of course, it's really personal to you, and you play the game how you find it fun. And if you find it fun, you're gonna want to keep playing it, and you're gonna get better anyways.
Would you say there's a most important skill for people to learn, or a skill that once you learn it makes learning other skills a lot easier?
Um, It okay. It might be. I'll say two things. One
Okay.
thing is Osu's an aim game, so if you don't have aim, you're kind of screwed unless you're, you know, Marami 3 or something that just spawns. Um, but aim is also always really good, and not so much. I'm gonna say reading, but I don't mean reading like low AR. I just mean kind of pattern recognition and pattern processing. Because I know a lot of people who are in even like 4-digit range who struggle a lot with really high density tech maps, like things that I really like to play, because they say they can't read it, right? So introduce yourself to stuff like that as well, because definitely reading will go into a lot of different maps.
I think probably the most overwhelming type of map, not only to read, but maybe just in general, is probably tech. You mentioned that you sort of naturally progressed from being an aim player to sort of gradually introducing tech. But what advice would you give for someone who's kind of trying to break into that style of mapping?
Yeah, I definitely think tech is it's definitely one of the most broad terms in OSU, but it's also one of the most broad styles of maps, which means there can be a million different styles in one single song or one single map. So I'm someone who really pushes those and says you should try getting good at them, even if it's just for fun. Try different kinds of tech maps, quote unquote, from different mappers and even different styles of artists, because the more tech maps you'll play, you're gonna see. I play tech maps these days, and I'm still seeing patterns that I've never seen before, basically. So, just trying them and just being familiar with different rhythms and patterns is very powerful.
I think the other aspect of reading that I think a lot of people mention is kind of preference, or maybe it isn't, but that is the hidden mod. I'll start with a very
Ooh,
basic question of what are your thoughts on the hidden mod?
you see, I love hidden. Um, if you didn't know, I originally used hidden because when I was back on my crap top, uh, I felt like, it almost felt like my frames were better when I had hidden on because there wasn't so much going on the screen. But it can be a pretty powerful tool, I'd say, especially when you're thinking about um timing, if that makes sense. I actually recommend people, if they think they get bad at, try throwing on hidden and see. It's just start playing with your ears instead of your eyes, right?
That makes me wonder what exactly you tend to focus on when you play, just kind of in general. Like, is it mostly audio or is it mostly visual, or what combination of both do you use when you focus, especially when it comes to reading maps?
Um, for reading maps, I have this kind of complex explanation in my brain that I can't exactly put into words. But I think Bubbleman made some kind of video on it because I was having a conversation with him about this. But quote unquote reading maps, if they were low AR and you are trying to aim and you are just missing because you don't know why, it's sometimes because your uh like the speed at which your cursor moves at when you hit the note isn't lining up with your left hand tapping because you almost aren't listening to the music and you're focusing too much on your eyes. So I definitely have like a really big combination of both when it comes to aim and reading.
And does one take more priority over the other on like different types of maps? Like if you get to really lower ARs, like if you ever play easy mod, for example, as opposed to more generic type maps, is there a sort of difference in the way that you read and focus on the patterns?
If it's something more dense, like let's say something has cut streams, I feel like I listen more because I actually am trying to consciously hear like, oh, I hit 3 notes and then the cut stream happens, I hit 3 more notes, and then another cut happens. So, stuff like that, I think I use more listening, and then if it's just less dense, I will just use more my eyes, right?
And I think the last thing sort of regarding this topic overall is probably like where exactly you focus visually, especially on really, really big patterns that are all the way across the screen, but even just in general, what exactly are you looking at and how do you visually process the notes? Like, are you looking at each note individually, or do you kind of look in the middle, or do you do some sort of like splitting patterns in your head sort of thing, or how exactly do you process patterns visually?
Yeah, for things that are really large, like these big RLs jump maps that are really cross screen, I actually tend to use a lot of peripheral vision. I try to look in the center of patterns, actually because I don't want to hurt my eyes in the long run. So for aim, I definitely use a lot of peripheral vision, and that comes with also muscle memory. I feel like I know, every inch of my tablet and where exactly my cursor is going to be on the screen at all times. Um, but again, if it's something more dense, I try to read the pattern fully rather than just reading it as one. I think you explained it as chunking once. I think I saw your video, but
Right. I do call it
yeah.
chunking.
Do you call it? I think that makes sense, but I use a lot of peripheral vision in general.
Yeah, chunking. I mean, it's a phrase that comes from, I guess, other activities, not just OSU, but it's basically like grouping things into like smaller and more digestible sections. I
Mhm.
think the most basic example of it is when you read a square, you're reading it
Oh yeah.
instead of as one big hunky, okay, well, one big square. Instead of reading it that way, you read it as a 1 2 and then another 1 2, sort of splitting it into smaller bits. Or you can even do like a triangle and then one sort of separate note that you kind of categorize as a separate entity in your head. That sort of concept is what we're referring to with chunking.
Yeah, I see. And talking about the squares too, I think this is a really old Ryuk quote where he said, don't look at it like a square, just look at it as 4 jumps, right? Like, just treat them as individual things."
Oh, I thought the old Ryuke quote about squares was, why is there squares in every speed map?
Oh, maybe that too.
So I want to go back a little bit to, you mentioned that you were on a really bad laptop way back when, and then long story short, here you are on a much better setup. What would you say are the advantages that you develop from playing on a bad setup, if there even is any? If you go from a bad setup to a better setup, is that better, worse, or basically the same as if you had started on a good setup the whole time?
I think I don't know if this is just me all along or if it's because I was on the laptop a long time ago, but I think I can like if you just threw me on a new setup, I could adapt to it really quickly because I had to be doing that back in the day. I was moving my laptop around all the time. I was sitting on the floor and playing, right? So I think that's one thing. But starting from there, I kind of was able to realize what I could change about my setup that would make it more comfortable for me. So I'm still doing that to this day. I use my little two stuffies. I put them under my arms as my armrests now. I'm just doing everything that can make me more comfortable, and it's always ever changing.
And you are a floor gamer on your little laptop. That's crazy.
I know.
What was your original, I guess, like inspiration when you were first playing Osu and sort of super captivated by it? What was that like feeling of captivation sort of grounded in?
Um, I have definitely talked about this before multiple times, like on my stream and off my stream too. But Osu was the game where I could open it and just have fun for a little bit, especially if I was feeling stressed or overwhelmed. Um, and it didn't feel like I was locked into a game necessarily. Like if you're in a league game, right? It's never appealed to me that I have to be in that game for 30 minutes or something. Like I could just get on Osu, play a couple songs, and then get off, and it's my own pleasure whenever I want to do it.
Is that still the way you see it these days? Or is there sort of, has it taken a darker turn, perhaps?
Maybe not dark, but it's definitely more of like I have to do a session and sit down because usually I'm streaming, right? So it's a more of a one session a day kind of thing.
Interesting. Do you have any other games that you've been playing actively these days? Or are there like is there a specific type of game that interests you more than others? And do you have like specific examples?
I'm I'm someone that kind of like I play whatever my friends are playing, you know. I do like to play random silly indie games too, which is usually what I'm doing if I'm by myself. I like Risk of Rain a lot, so excuse me, some people know. Right now I'm not playing too much, I think, but
Hmm.
definitely indie. I used to be really into open world stuff, like I love Skyrim, stuff like that.
Can I ask you about the Attack on Titan Miku game, whatever that was? I don't remember what it was called, but it almost looked like an idle game, but also like a like fighting like PvE environment like co-op. Can you describe
Yeah.
what game that is? Like, will do a better job than I will.
So I've played two on stream. I played one called the Attack on Titan fan game by Fengli, and one called I think Rowan's or Roark's Attack on Titan. So the one you're talking about with the little Miku is actually like a physics space PvE kind of thing. I guess you could compare it to like surfing in CS:GO kind of thing. I don't know if
Yeah,
that's a really good comparison.
I
Yeah,
think
but
it
it's just
is.
movement. Yeah. And you're just kind of running around trying to get high scores and stuff, and you can just skin characters in the game. So
Thing.
it's really fun. I gotta get you on it.
Oh my god. Is it free? Is it free or what?
Yeah. You just download it. It's free.
Oh my god.
It's really funny. Like once you get into it, it's really satisfying if you can learn the. It's like OC, you know?
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like one of those games that is sort of maintains that same kind of like, I don't know, pleasure out of just like kind of mindless, not really mindlessly, but sort of for your own pleasure and no like competitive
Yeah,
craziness to it, just kind of having fun.
yeah. I definitely like stuff like that for sure.
So while we're off the topic of Osu, someone sent in a question. They simply said, "How are you? I feel like everything's just Osu related, so I thought I'd change it up." Smiley face.
That's very nice. Um, I am okay. I just came back from TwitchCon, as some of you know. I got a little cold, unfortunately, but I'm okay. And I am actually I was saying this while you were gone from your house fire,
Oh no.
but I am taking a break from my IRL job so that I can actually start focusing on like making content more. So
Oh,
that's where I'm at right now.
that sounds exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think TwitchCon, man, TwitchCon is so motivating. There's something
Oh
about it.
yeah.
I don't know if that was like, well, I don't know if there's like, I guess maybe more than one reason aside from just the TwitchCon motivation. I mean, I'm sure there definitely is, but was TwitchCon the main motivation for you to kind of get you over the edge to make that choice?
I actually made the choice before I even planned on going to TwitchCon. It was
Oh,
kind of a last minute decision, but there was like it was before I went to Anime North. I was streaming and I was doing my IRL job at the same time,
oh gosh.
which yeah, it was literally like I was working every single day, like I didn't have a day off where I could do nothing. So because I work during the weekdays and then tournament time on the
Oh
weekends, so
no. Yeah.
it was really overwhelming. So a week before my vacation to Anime North or something like that, I couldn't stop thinking about it straight for a week. I was like, I cannot. I feel like I should let go of my work and pursue content because I feel like I can make something happen, right? So,
Right.
well, I kept thinking about it, and I was like, okay, if I'm thinking about it this much, I probably should do something about it. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I definitely agree with that. I think it's better you make that choice, especially if it is what feels most true to you, as opposed to living with regret, I guess. Not to take
yeah.
such a dark turn, but yeah,
Not
I've
that I have regrets, but yeah, it was more comfortable for me, right?
yeah, and I'm sure you can always go back or if
Yeah,
it doesn't work
yeah.
out. But um so uh I think it is my moral obligation to run through the other questions on the forum that seem to all have a similar theme. I'm not sure if it's something you've heard of or not, but something called SFA.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Yeah, so someone asked a question. They said, what are the requirements to join SFA, also known as Stand Full Area, the gang or squad of gamers who use a very large area when they play OSU? What are the requirements to join SFA other than using full area?
Yeah, so literally anyone you can call yourself a member of SFA if you use full area, but the actual application process for full area or SFA is purely just for the Twitch team, where if you don't know what a Twitch team is, if you're looking at my stream, I think it's under my name or next to it or something, you'll see a little highlighted thing that says stand full area. You can click on it and basically see everyone that's live. So there's a little form that you can, fill out your information for, and I have not checked it in several months, so I'm sorry to the people I've disappointed,
Oh
but
no.
as long as you use full area, you can call yourself a full area member.
All right, next question, also related to this same topic, is how does your area affect cross screen and speed, like very high BPM jumps?
Well, high BPM jumps is actually one of my favorite skill sets, so I'd like to think that whatever limit I think I have, I can beat it eventually through, sheer muscle and working hard and working out on full area. Um, but like we were saying earlier, if it's a lot of me thinking about min-maxing my movement, changing my grip up to accommodate certain maps. So it's something I can always overcome. I try to always overcome it. I try not to let my area get the better of me, basically.
Do you feel like you've reached the limits of full area?
No.
Well, that was quite assertive.
I will never there is no limit for me.
Someone asked, do you ever get arm problems playing full area?
Yes. That that I have definitely had tennis elbow before, which is really annoying. I've also had some sort of elbow issue in my left hand because that's my tapping hand. I used to do a lot of arm tapping and straining my arm. Um, but definitely on my aiming side, there was a time when I was doing Union, I was doing a lot of other DT plays and stuff, and I was really pushing myself like almost before I was ready, before the muscles were developed kind of thing. So I did end up with like some elbow problems. I've had shoulder problems before, but they all go away as long as I give myself a rest.
What is tennis elbow exactly? Does that just mean your elbow hurts, or what exactly is that?
Yeah, it's like elbow boo boo.
Oh no.
It's like if I haven't had it in a while, like I don't let myself get to that point usually. I'll usually know before it comes, but it's like imagine you just have your arms at rest and it's just like burning pain in your elbow and it's really annoying and it doesn't go away,
I
right? And it
see.
like keeps you up at night. It's very annoying. But it's gone.
That is good. So, what are your thoughts on stand small area? Do they also have potential to be good at Osu?
I mean, stand small area is just like everyone and their mother that's not full area to me. You're not full area, you're small.
Oh no.
Oh god.
Is there a superior option? Unbiased question.
Unbiased, you should try full area, everybody.
Are they superior, or is everyone created equal?
Everyone's created equally. We should move on to the next question actually.
Yeah, I think we should change the topic a little bit. Actually, okay, this is an interesting question. What do you suggest for a mouse player switching to full area? Any tips? So, I do believe that SFA also is inclusive towards mouse players, where you basically, if you use a very low sensitivity or low DPI, then that basically also counts. There's like a cutoff. I don't know what the cutoff is for to be considered full area, but yes, they have suggestions for mouse players switching to full area. I assume they're probably talking about tablet, but still.
Yeah. Yeah, just to quickly touch on the full area thing for mouse, we do that now, and I tried to excuse me, I tried to calculate it so that the amount of movement you would have in your hand would be similar to that of the minimum requirement of full area on a tablet. So it would be around it's 600 eDPI, which is just your DPI times your sensitivity. Um, and I kind of said this earlier, but if you're switching to tablet, the full area doesn't really relate much to mouse. You do use like the elbow movement a lot. You use kind of the same arm movement, I would say. But yeah, literally it's just treat it like a bike, right? Just go for it. It's a completely new play style anyways. You're only gonna have the familiarity of the broader muscle movement.
So you mentioned your tapping a little bit, and I want to zoom in on that for a bit because I think you have sort of gone from being super tapping gapped to at least being able to hold your own, not really needing to permaban it against everyone, so to speak. So can you sort of walk us through your journey of improving your tapping, both speed and stamina, and some of the lessons you've learned and tips that you have to give to people who sort of feel like they're in the same boat of their tapping being very limiting and feeling like they might have certain habits that they're trying to break and improve on.
Yeah, and I will definitely recommend uh you guys to go watch the tapping bit that I did for OC University as well. I'm sure it's on the YouTube channel.
Oh, yes.
Um, yeah, and I was talking about tapping, and I think even to this day, the points that I hit in that talk kind of still hold up. Um, just saying, since then, xootynator has been on NOMOD 2 and DT2 roster for Canadian OWC qualifiers. So, there's some improvement.
That's
Um,
true.
but yeah, I hope eventually, maybe one day, I'll become, Marami 4 and make the Zoonator speed guide from rags to riches kind of thing. But definitely watch that video because I had a lot of points in that.
You mentioned Miami 3, Miami 4. First of all, who's Miami 2?
Oh, there's like Marami 6 at this point now. Come on, there's speed players left and right, just coming out the caboose.
Is there a certain like is there like a key or master key to decode who is who?
I just like to think of them as order that they came out. Newest Marami would be Roaz, and then Rami before that would be Scytho.
Oh, okay, okay.
But they're all so cool in their own regard. They all have their little quirks, right? That make them unique.
Which number is window life?
Oh my goodness, Window Life. I just found out about this player the other day when they skipped 1K. I don't know yet. I have to go look at what's going on.
Look at the roster of Miramis and sort of
Yeah,
slot him
let
in
me let me
somewhere.
number them all.
So there's a couple questions that came in about some things you mentioned earlier. So I'm curious your thoughts on this. So someone named Gavin sent in a question. They said, I'm also working a job while streaming and doing content creation on the side. I don't want to quit my job, but content creation is my passion and I need money. So is it really worth quitting to pursue content creation?
Hi, Gavin. Gavin is literally in my chat right now. But yeah, like I was saying, it was something that I thought of for a while. So uh, to give like a summary of, I base it off my income kind of thing. I enjoy my job and I also enjoyed streaming. So I'd say like if I were to think about my total income, um, my IRL job was giving me less than what my streaming was. So at this point, it was kind of like, oh, you should just focus on streaming because you could you're already making more than your actual job, and you have the potential to make a lot more. You're not barred by what the paycheck is going to give you, right? If you work harder, you can make more money. So that was kind of one of the driving factors for me, but it took me literal I've been streaming for 4 years maybe, and throughout these entire 4 years, I never thought of streaming as my plan A. I had a job at Toys R Us, like I went to school, I started working freelance, and the entire time I was like, "No, I'm not going to do content full time." Until like 2 months ago. So, it was a really long decision that I think you have to think about for a long time, so you wanna do it.
Yeah, and I
And I
think
have fallbacks.
yeah, that's definitely the most important point that I want to emphasize, and also that like you, it's hard. I think when you are trying to balance two things, there's different school of thoughts to this, obviously, but you sort of mentioned like up until only 2 months ago, did you really consider potentially taking it full time? And that was like well after you sort of average anywhere from like 300 to 800 viewers on every single stream, and
Mhm.
that I think is something that's important for people to recognize. Where I mean, especially I think this person mentioned that they said they also do need money, which I think like realistically, as you're growing as a creator, first of all, I think when you're a small to like medium-ish size creator, I would say if you're averaging under like 200 viewers per stream, like you're not making as much money as you might think. Like people who average maybe like, I guess in Twitch concurrent viewer terms, if you're averaging maybe, I would say anything, honestly, anything under like the partner requirements, you're not making any amount of sustainable money. And if you are, then it might be like a random month where like a couple people decided to donate a lot more than you typically get. But yeah, I think keeping that in mind that like it's very, very volatile, and that if you sort of need the stability, then I guess fighting through like being able to balance both. And if content creation is your passion, then in the end of the day, no matter what, you're gonna be able to find a way to make it work. So
Mhm.
I think that as long as you're able to put your mind to it and keep keep your other options readily available, so to speak, because I think you hear all these like crazy success stories where like people like dropped out of college and their content channel blew up, and I think those stories are they obviously exist and there's merit to them, but the vast majority of people had backup plans for the longest time, and like even when it was like more than realistic for them to switch to full time, they still sort of like hold on to that sort of security of having that backup plan for a really long time. So that's something that is the more reasonable, rational decision, in at least in my perspective, and you can give your thoughts on this as well. But yeah, I think keeping that all in mind is definitely important.
No, I totally agree. Like I like to think multiple backup plans. Um, but if you can find a way to stick with it for long enough, like I have, and see where your content goes, it will be worth it in the long run. I also agree with you. Like, if that's your passion at the end of the day, you will eventually get there. But it's something that you have to look out for to not rush into it right away. Because one thing about content creation is you will get burnout. Like, you will get burnt out really fast, and someone like me gets burnt out a lot. And I have a lot of points where I stopped streaming for a while. Um, but now that I have everything out of the way, I can actually focus on it. So I kind of paved this path for myself, right? You'll eventually get there.
Yeah, and it took a long time for you. I mean, you've been partnered in like just let alone partnered even
Oh
since
yeah.
like maybe 2 or maybe even 3 years.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, a very, very long time. Like I had um I was streaming like out of high school kind of thing, and I had my friends from high school. My friends from high school said, you know, Lily, like, I think you can make it. Like, I think you're entertaining. And I didn't think much of it. And then Whole Wheat Pete said, you know, Lily, I think you can make it. And then Ed said, oh, Lily, you can make it. And then Grant said, oh, you can make it. And I disregarded like every single, well, I didn't disregard it, but I didn't think about actually making it until, yeah, till now. Now I actually want to try to do it.
So how do you grow as a creator? Should I just keep streaming on Twitch and wait for people to start showing up and recognize when I do something really cool and funny? Or what are the, I guess, quote unquote strategies for growing, especially as a streamer?
There's like a million and one strategies. Honestly, like the thing I always tell people is if you want to focus on Twitch, just consistency is key. It's just like Osu, okay? Consistency is key. Just be there at the same time all the time, whenever you can be. Uh, Usually try to do the same kind of content every time because even for someone like me, if I am off of Osu, thankfully I have a good enough community where the numbers will stay up, but people usually want to watch you for one kind of content in the beginning if you don't have a big community focus. But at a certain point, you have to kind of have a lot of other social medias and channels that will get traffic to your Twitch channel. Like YouTube is one big advertisement to be like, "Oh, check out my Twitch stuff when I go live." Twitter's like, "Oh, yo, I'm live." Instagram's like, "This is what I'm doing when I'm not live," right? So if you want Twitch to be your number one, then there's that. Some people want YouTube to be their number one, so you do that, but it's like you're kind of just like getting all the people to go to your Twitch kind of thing. So it's not just Twitch. You have to go outside as well.
Yeah, I think I do want to double down on that point because Twitch, like, when is the last time you watched a streamer that you weren't either already followed to or heard about from a different platform?
Yeah, like on Twitch itself, it's kind of hard to find people because that's the fault of Twitch, kind of thing. It's even hard for me to find people that I want to connect to, right? Outside of Osu.
Right. Not only that, but it's like, when's the last time you even followed someone who you didn't already know from a different platform?
Yeah, no.
So
Me, no, I don't.
yeah, that's something that's like important to keep in mind. I mean, maybe it's different from people who really actively watch Twitch, but I would suspect most people sort of have that same kind of reaction to that question where it's like, yeah, that kind of doesn't happen. So
Yeah,
if there's one sort of main principle that I would try to give for content creation is actually pretty simple, but people need a reason to watch your channel. That is the pretty much only way that you'll get views is that people feel like there's a reason to watch your channel. Probably sounds very simple, but if you just ask yourself that question when you're going live, like, what is the reason why someone would watch this? Right? Why would someone watch me right now versus other people? And why would someone watch what I'm doing right now compared to other people? And I think being honest with yourself, and it's not really to put you down in any way, but it's to sort of, I guess, get a little more creative or think outside the box as to what you do on stream and how you promote your stream and the way that people view your content and yeah, I think discoverability as well. As you mentioned on YouTube, making videos that are sort of like spawned from a Twitch stream or anything like that. But yeah, I think those are really important things to ask yourself.
yeah. Um, yeah. I mean, even at my where I am right now, I don't consider myself to have made it yet. Um, but it's like a lot of it's definitely a lot of work. If you want to actually actively grow your channels and stuff, you gotta actually put a lot of work in, but it's doable.
What are your plans? What are your grand epic content machine? What's your Notion page of content ideas? Can we get a sneak peek
Oh
of
my,
what's in the pipeline?
can I just say I'm trying to beautify my Notion page, and why can you not resize the default calendar that's in Notion? Like it infuriates me because I want a calendar there, but it's huge. You ever
Oh,
tried it?
I have used the calendar feature, but if I'm gonna mess with calendar stuff, I would probably just use Google Calendar.
Yeah, I heard you should use that because you can actually resize it. So I might just do
Well,
that.
it's not really about resizing, but it's just more like fluid, I guess. Like it's designed to be a
Yeah,
calendar. So,
I have not used it before.
ever?
No,
Oh no.
I'm like the unorganized person, kind of.
Ah, I see, I see. Yeah, I
Yeah, I'll do that.
highly recommend Google Calendar. I pretty much always have it open.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. It's like it opens like I have a tab open right now. It opens when I open my browser. It's on the home page of my phone. It's just like it's just so
Oh,
useful. So useful.
not
But
an ad for Google.
not an ad. But
um,
yes, what is in
yeah,
the
but
pipeline?
plans. Well, I definitely want to keep streaming. My stream quote unquote schedule is just it's very whimsical. I just stream when I want to. I definitely want to be more consistent in that. I want to delve more into YouTube, and I want to actually make like I don't know if I told you I want to make like documentary kind of things about Osu.
Oh,
I am noticing there's a lot more like good content surrounding Osu now. There's a lot of new YouTubers that are coming out, I feel like.
right.
So it's all getting better, and of course I want to like I said, I want to get more social medias to start directing more stuff to my Twitch. So I'm trying to start my Instagram again, and I should come up with an actual roadmap of what I'm gonna do. But yeah, stream more and YouTube. That's my main goals.
Speaking of Twitch and YouTube, I know a lot of streamers that have been migrating from the Twitch platform in the first place. Do you
Hmm.
have any thoughts on switching to YouTube as a streaming platform and the viability of that, I guess, especially with your specific situation?
So as far as I know, uh, the discoverability and navigation for YouTube Live is like doggy doo doo right now. Um, and I feel like if I went to well, people stay with Twitch because they want the Twitch culture and people know kind of they know how to navigate Twitch. And if someone like me were to just move where I'm kind of like a middle-sized streamer, I'd say, um, I feel like I would be losing out because I don't a lot of my regulars don't look at YouTube lives. Like people that watch YouTube live are just people that are on YouTube all the time. So I feel like I'm kind of stuck here. It's kind of like you're choosing the two lesser evils.
Right, right, right.
The yeah, like I wouldn't switch maybe in a couple years when I get like a seven-figure paycheck from YouTube and they say come on over xootynator. Yeah, I'll go, but right now it's not really viable for someone like me.
Yeah, that's definitely fair, especially in those category if you're going to be streaming your matches. But yeah,
Yeah.
I do also think there's a lot more flexibility now that there's no exclusivity where if you're
Mhm.
partnered, you have to be on Twitch. So, because you mentioned that like people that watch your streams on Twitch sort of like some people, some of those like just don't watch YouTube. But I think also the reverse is kind of true. So
Yeah.
that is definitely something to keep in mind. But yes,
Yeah, in an ideal world, like if the video creation and the streaming was all on one platform, it would explode, right? Like it would
right.
be the glory days, literally. But we're not there yet.
So, other important content related questions. Can I get a rundown of your lighting setup?
My lighting setup,
Yes.
it's so bad. Yo, I'll show you. You're looking at my stream right now?
Yeah, I am actually.
Okay. I have a couple of I have a couple of drinks on my desk, so do not comment.
Okay, those who are audio
But
only, I'll try to describe what I see.
okay, I have a window. There's a window there, so that's one side of the lighting.
Okay, so to your right, you have a giant
Well, on my
window.
left, technically, it's
Oh,
flipped, I think.
oh, it's flipped.
Um, but then on my right, I have this LED thing that has blue light facing towards my wall.
Ah, I see. So that's how you get that kind of like cool-ish tint.
Yeah, and I have no other lights in my room, so that's it. I'm looking for a lamp though.
Oh, okay. I see the blue now. I actually see it.
Yeah, it's from the side, and then you can see like the sunlight on my cheek, right?
Right.
It's a bit
Okay.
uneven, but we work with what we got.
It definitely works. It didn't. It stood out as sort of like a. It's like a soft filter, so to speak.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I think it does work. But
yeah. I'm looking for better lighting and camera situations soon, so we'll see.
how important is all of this, especially for someone who does want to get into content creation? How important is it to have a cool lighting setup and a cool microphone with a pop filter and a cool uh, mascot? You have your little
Oh
guy.
yeah.
How important is that stuff to get started?
Um, it's so not important at all. Like, um, some people think it's really important when they start out, but someone like me who's been around for a while, who's streamed with pretty bad conditions, I'd say, even with like laggy streams, like the actual content is what people are looking for. Like either you're really good at the game, or you're really entertaining, or you're a mix of both, and people stick around for that. They don't stick around because your damn lighting looks really cool. Like I go into someone's stream every day, I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see their lights. Oh my gosh. Right. Things like having a mascot though is something that's memorable. Like if you see it around, you're like, oh, that's from xootynator. It's got a little green little doo doo on her side. So stuff like that is pretty important for branding, I'd say, but not the actual stream setup and fancy lights and everything.
Where can I buy Daffren? How do I get one?
So you can find them on eBay. Like they're not made anymore. They're like literally 12 years old or something. Um, one of my editors actually found one, bought one. It was 100 USD.
Oh,
So they're quite rare.
I think the story is that you had it just kind of given to you randomly.
Yeah, by my friend, and he uh he told me like, wow, I never thought this little stuffy would be so important in your brand. So yeah, he still watches to this day every so often.
Is it a like from a certain game or show, or what exactly is it?
Yeah, hold on. Let me take this off. So he's from Gaia Online, which is a pretty old game. You can see he has the G on his belly right there. So
Oh,
yeah, they were manufactured for the game. It was a I don't know the exact lore, but basically they had this bunny character that was a cosmetic in the game that you could wear on your head, and they had a collaboration with like I want to say Resident Evil, but I don't think that's right. But some game with the T virus, and the bunny got the T virus, and now he's a zombie. But yeah,
apparently it's called a
the
grunny.
Grunny. Yeah,
Oh dear, green bunny.
the Grunny.
Grunny. Wait a minute. Oh
Sort of
no.
silly name.
That's quite the name. Yeah, I like Daffren, which I think is a sort of basically the etymology is just the friend, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it was a um. They have this thing when you're creating original characters where you have a placeholder name, and then eventually the placeholder name becomes the actual name. So that's
Right.
what happened. It was the friend, and I was like, holy shit, the friend.
So is it Defren? Is that the official pronunciation?
Yeah, with a D, the friend.
Defren? Is it because I was never sure if it was Defren or Daffren.
Duh,
Yeah, a Defren.
for
Okay,
sure.
that does make
Different.
sense. That makes sense. I do apologize.
Alright, you know now.
Yes, I do. And I believe we may want to touch back on OC related improvement month questions.
Oh, Osu!
Oh
I know
yeah.
Osu. Oh, goodness.
All right. Let's see
Okay.
here. So, xootynator, important question. We're talking about OC improvement. How do I improve at OSU?
Play the game more.
Are there any analogies you can draw to this? Is there a relationship between content creation and OSU improvement and art improvement and anything in between? I know I picked your brain about the relationship between art and OSU in the
Uh-huh.
podcast that I did with you, but the one that's on my channel, the Honey podcast. But yes, specifically with content creation, now we're taking a new angle. What's the relationship between improving at content and improving at OSU?
Yeah, one of the things I say that's a direct relation is if you want to improve at OSU, like okay, it's kind of like a circle, you know, it's like the circle of life. So when you want to play a game, you're playing the game, right? You're playing your little silly game, and then you decide to start streaming it. So either you really like streaming and it makes you want to play the game, or you really like playing the game and it makes you want to stream. So for me, I just streamed every time I played OSU, and I was improving at OSU, but I was also improving as like a speaker and a content creator at the same time. So it was like just direct thing. I literally was just doing it more, and I learned everything that way.
Yeah, I think that sort of it also really helps to, I guess, jumpstart your channel, so to speak, and start developing an audience around something else. Like for you, you were starting to become recognized within the OC community, and that's where a lot of people got sent over to your Twitch as well.
Yeah, I was pretty infamous, as a lot of people know, because of I started streaming before I got unbanned actually. So
Oh.
I was on my little vengeance thing, and I just played all the time, and that made me stream all the time, and now here I am.
So there's a more specific gameplay question that came in. Someone said, I'm personally in, actually, this was Gavin again. They said, I'm personally in a gameplay drought where I go months at a time without a score. Then I go 1 week or I pop off. How can I build more consistency with harder scores? So this is more about like maintaining a relatively consistent like level of like skill level across weeks or months even. How can you prevent yourself from not getting into like massive slumps of your skill level?
um, well, I have definitely been there because I feel like I've been there recently, where even if I set a score, I feel like it's almost not up to my standard. Um, but they do happen. So I feel like the more you play, if you're playing regularly and you feel like you're still in the slump, you're probably not recognizing that you actually have this fundamental skill, and you're playing at a consistent level already, and your body is kind of just waiting for that 1 week or 1 day where you actually go god mode and everything like clicks right away. So I feel like it's already just recognizing what you have going for you and just playing and getting consistent, getting muscle memory still. Because even if you feel like you're playing bad, I think you can still learn something. That makes sense.
So is it just a patience game?
Yeah, like I literally, you know, I haven't set my 1000 PP play since I got 1000 PP. I'm just waiting for the day, right?
Interesting. So is there even a way to mitigate those slumps, or is it really just kind of something that everyone has to live with?
I think they happen no matter who you are. It just depends person to person how long they last and how frequently they happen. But it will happen, and as long as you play through it and whatever, you'll eventually have that one god mode day, and it's gonna reignite your passion, I'd say, because that's what happens to me.
If you could start over your OC skill level, you had the grand opportunity to build it all up from zero, how exactly would you go about practicing and improving? What exactly would you focus on? What types of maps? And how would, like, I don't know, settings and things like that, skill sets that you would try to learn a little earlier, and techniques that you would try to make sure are all in a good place? What exactly would you try to focus on if you had to learn everything from the beginning?
I think if I had like the knowledge from my past life kind of thing from Osu, I would definitely uh try to be a little more rounded than I was before. I kind of put all my skill points into aim and none into tapping, so I am still to this day trying to unlearn these bad tapping habits that I literally was developing on my laptop. I know people who are on laptop who are literally the best speed players of all time for some reason. But I had a lot of bad habits back then, so I would definitely focus on being rounded. But I would still kind of go down the same path of playing things that I genuinely enjoyed. I would play a lot of aim still, because that's just really what I love. I just played a crap ton of aim.
I'm gonna flip the question around. What would you do if you wanted to not improve at all? If you wanted to be the worst, least consistent, lowest skill cap, absolute, just worst player in the game, what would
Oh
you
my
do?
lord. Um, I feel like I would just like play 2-star maps for the rest of my life because you in to some extent, I guess it depends on the person and the maps, but to some extent you can't really get better unless you push yourself. Even if you're playing something like Big Black, something really silly, like you're still pushing yourself and that's what makes you improve. If you stay stagnant and you don't push yourself, then you're always gonna be a flop.
Yeah, honestly, okay. I'm glad you mentioned that in particular because I feel like that. I mean, it sounds obvious when you say like staying at 2 stars and never pushing yourself past that, but I feel like a lot of people actually find themselves in that position. Although it's more at like 5 stars or maybe like even 6 stars,
Mm.
where they are staying at the same star rating that used to be challenging and now is sort of pretty close to their actual skill level, but they're sort of staying there and not having the confidence, I guess, to push themselves further and further and playing maps that are outside their comfort zone.
Yeah, and I feel like that relates back to tournaments as well because I'm someone who usually, generally, if I'm good enough, I get to late stages of tournaments, regardless if they're 1v1 or if they're team based. But I always feel like there's a point which I reach, usually in grand finals, where I've actually reached my limit for the skill cap, and I can't just keep playing, tournaments to do that. I have to actually go and start pushing myself in solo play, and then come back and work on my skills that way. So I can't just keep playing tournaments basically. Like I can't keep playing that 2-star and expect to get better. I have to push myself.
Right, the metaphorical 2 star there.
Metaphorical 2-star, yeah.
So when you are playing high level tournaments, I feel like you, especially like in the last, even I guess the last year or year and a half, you're sort of always up there getting matched against the best players, absolute tournament titans in the game, both in 1v1s and in teams. Is there any mental preparation that goes behind playing against those massive, like sort of stars of players? And what exactly does that mental preparation look like?
Well, I will talk about Corsair's Closed since that was, I guess, fairly recent. That was a couple of months ago.
This is a really
Um,
big 1v1, right?
yeah, one of the biggest 1v1s. It's an invitational, basically, and 16 people get to duke it out, and it's usually very, very high skill cap and very hard map pools. And I kid you not, every single match I went into, I thought I was gonna lose because that's how high the stakes were in that. Um, but the thing is, I just try to have, the most positive mindset that I can. I've never really gotten genuinely upset or like mad at myself after a match. Even if I think I'm gonna go into something and lose, I want to have the best. I want to show that I did my best, basically. So I just try to focus on myself and not the viewers. I'm sorry, viewers that want an epic show, but as long as I can keep myself happy, then that's the mental prep that I need. Just have confidence in myself.
Do you have plans to turn any of those match VODs into YouTube videos?
Yeah, so when I was talking about making documentaries and stuff, I wanted to actually specifically make a video on the Corsairs closed experience and like I was saying, how I thought I was literally gonna lose every map and what I was doing to prepare and what I was thinking. Um, and not just like I don't just want to make a video of like highlights from that tournament. I want it to be like what it takes kind of mentally to
Ah,
play something this high stakes, right? Because I think there's not that much of that kind of content around. because I was like, if you guys know, if you watched the grand finals for that, I was playing against Utami, and I was in winners, so we had to play 2 matches back to back. Um, and we were both crying at the end of that. Like it was super super emotional. So it's something that people don't really see that often.
Yeah, I think the stakes. I remember you ended up you went and posted on Twitter. Just it's emotional, not from who won or lost, but just sort of knowing that this this was probably like the highest stakes environment, especially for a 1v1 that either of you had ever been in. And sort of, can you, I guess, give us a picture into what was happening during that time?
Like in the grand finals match or just
Yeah,
overall.
like what was
Oh
the emotional experience there?
yeah, so definitely I was like, okay, I'm gonna go into this match and get screwed up. So what happened in the first set, I believe I got kind of stomped. I think I got 1 point against Utami. And also my dad was watching, so when the second set rolled around, I was like, okay, I gotta do something to impress my dad at least. So I brought it back 5-7. Um, and the entire time I was thinking, and I even say to this day now, every time you'll see I go against Utami, is I don't want to play it safe anymore against him because if I play it safe, I'm probably gonna lose because his skill cap is so much higher than mine and he's so good. So I tried pulling literally all the punches that I could in that match. I played everything. I was picking things that I wasn't even sure who would win at that point, and it was working. Like I got to 7-5, and I lost on the last map by I think less than 10k or something, very very minuscule.
Oh
But
no,
the mental fortitude that went into that set was insane from both of us.
that sounds horrifying. But it also sounds like that's kind of what tournaments are all about, I think.
Yeah, it's interesting, and like I was saying, the emotional side is definitely something that people don't really see on YouTube. They just see the match happen, and that's it, right? I
Right.
want to touch on the emotional state that I felt.
Who's the editor?
Guys, I am looking for one dedicated editor to work alongside me on my YouTube channel. I was actually gonna make a tweet. Also, time for the EST people.
Wait,
Um,
time.
yo, time.
Oh
Um,
shoot.
but yeah, I'm actually gonna look for an editor because I'm not the biggest editor. I literally know the bare bones, so I want to work with someone on a video like that. So hit me up.
Someone's gonna be listening to this through like audio only or through the recording, and they're gonna check the time, and it'll actually be 7:27.
Oh,
That would be crazy.
make sure to take a screenshot.
Yes, take a screenshot if that happens to you. Although I think by now it might be 7:28, so it might be too late for a screenshot, but still. Anyway, so Gavin has once again asked a very insightful and thoughtful question. Thank you,
Thank
Gavin.
you, Evan.
So Gavin said, during streaming, how do you maintain the same energy for upwards of 5 hours? For me, it's very easy to get tired around hour 2 or 3.
Yeah, so I'm already someone who's I consider myself like an introvert and I also have a low social battery and I also get tired very quickly. So when I'm doing these long streams, like 2 days ago I had like an 8-hour long stream. But I am definitely trying to stay in tune with my body and I will only go that long if I feel comfortable enough to. Um I do have kind of like when I hit start stream I'm like, "Oh, I instantly get energy." I don't know, it's like some kind of streamer buff. Um, but I'm definitely managing my time and my energy the whole time. When I'm playing Osu though, the nice part about that is if I don't have the high energy all the time, I can just, play the game and my gameplay will kind of be the content for the day. Uh, instead of me having to talk constantly and having high energy. You don't need to have that all the time necessarily. And when I do something like profile reviews, I literally do that for 30 minutes and I'm done. Like, I try to balance it through the stream so that I can go longer.
What do you think it is about profile reviews? Why is it so popular?
I mean, I don't know. Like, people that try to get their profile reviewed and it's literally like copy paste every single top play. I just want like it's kind of like when you subscribe to a really big streamer and you want them to say your name, I guess. You
Right.
know,
That's true.
like same satisfaction. Um, but I don't know. I I'll only do profile reviews for $50 a piece. So you guys want a profile review?
Wait a
Let me
minute.
know. Oh boy. But yeah, those are really exhausting for me.
All right, another sort of miscellaneous question, but Gavin has asked, how important are good headphones for Osu?
Gavin is quite wise, actually. Um, well, right now, I don't know how many of you know, but my headphones are broken.
Oh dear.
So I used earbuds for a long time, but then I finally switched to headphones. And basically, my headphones, you can turn them on, and it'll sound better, but it also has noise suppression. So it broke, so I can't like turn them on anymore. So it's pretty bad. I think the only thing is the delay that you notice. I think I notice more delay with the earbuds or something. Maybe it's just because I can hear more outside noise.
Ah, that would make
Um,
sense.
yeah, the I don't know so much about the sound quality, but it's the delay that's really important for me, right?
Yeah, I think headphones versus earbuds is kind of like putting on a VR headset. Like more of your sensory, like your senses is sort of like
Mm,
entranced by the the experience of the computer. I guess.
yeah, no, I get you. It feels like you're more into the you're more into the music, like you're in the song, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah.
maybe you play better.
All right, a couple other miscellaneous questions. Someone asked, what is your favorite song, not just in Osu, but in general?
Well, I like Vocaloid a lot, and I like Miku a lot. Um, and right now, one of my favorite songs of all time is "Hole Dwelling" by Kikuo. There's a lot of Kikuo
Oh,
songs where I will just literally put them on repeat in my car. Very good artist, I would say.
banger for sure.
Bangers. There's also an Osu map that's pretty good, and Malashevsky sniped me on it twice, so there's that
Oh no.
silly guy.
Yeah. Oh, what a little guy.
The little creature.
A little Osu spawn. So there's a question that came in about time management. Especially, I know you probably touched on this a little bit as far as like balancing work and other things, but do you have any sort of specific actionable insights or lessons that you've learned about time management and balancing content creation along with other obligations in your life?
Yeah. Um, I think I have a pretty good sense of time management already. I like to kind of live on, I don't know what it's called exactly. I think it's called like a slow schedule, where you have the things that you need to do for the day, but you don't necessarily assign like a time slot to them. Like today, I know I had to go help my dad with an errand in the morning, and then I had to do my interview, and then I'm going to upload something, right? Well, I just want to hit that goal in the day, so I kind of space out my things, not to have too many things in one day, because I am a little bit of a lazy bean, but I do get my stuff done.
I see. So sort of not, uh, I guess like holding yourself accountable to do certain things and sort of like maintain a streak per se, especially for things like content creation like YouTube or Twitch, but not necessarily holding yourself accountable to uh, like fit a fixed schedule, especially if it's not something that's super aligned with your, I guess, style of doing things.
Yeah, in a sense. And like if I don't hit all those points for the day, like if I don't finish my upload, I will do it tomorrow. I won't bash on myself for it, but it's on my list of things to do and I will do it, right?
Yeah, I think that that's one really important principle that I actually took a while to learn as well, which is that like you shouldn't try to conform to a schedule that you made, which realistically has somewhat arbitrary times and deadlines that you set for yourself, as opposed to having your schedule conform to you and your lifestyle and whatever's going on in that current moment or phase or season of your life.
Yeah, and I'm definitely, like I said earlier, I like to think I'm pretty in tune with my body and what it wants. So I try to listen to what my body's saying, because if it doesn't want to do something right now, then I'll let it rest. It's probably for a reason.
Right. Well, this is an important question. Someone said, are plushies slash stuffed animals important to boost my OS improvement, such as white cat plushies or PP cat?
I think having a little something something next to you as like a little reminder and almost like a little cheerleader on your desk is kind of funny. I actually learned this. I don't know exactly if this is correct, so someone can educate me. But apparently, for engineers and like coders, there's this funny thing where they have a rubber duck on their desk all the time. So what they do with the rubber duck is they'll just explain the problem, and as they're saying it out loud, they'll find the solution. So it's kind of just literally like a little cheerleader on your desk.
Ah, that's interesting. They sort of like explain to the rubber duck
Yeah,
as if it's
yeah. I
okay.
just learned that the other day.
That's actually big brain. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So the friend is like my little my little rock on my desk. I give him a little pet when I'm feeling I lost a map. Oh man, let me get some power back.
Oh, someone in chat confirmed that is true.
You had to do that last year in computer science. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Get a rubber duck. Get a little plushie for your desk.
Awesome. Do you feel like that translates to OSU?
Maybe.
Explaining the problem you're having on a certain map, and then you FC it in the next try.
Yeah, you could just instead of going into OC Rewind to check where you missed, you could just turn to your little rubber duck and be like, "Why did I miss?" And then you won't miss next time. Something like that.
OSU rewind. Well, that sounds quite intriguing.
Oh, yeah,
Could
sounds
you
familiar,
tell
right?
me a little more about what this rewind thing is?
Okay, well, I've literally never used Rewind
Oh,
in my
okay.
entire life, but
Okay.
it's basically a program where you can plug your replay in and you can see your exact cursor movement and where you clicked, right? So it's just a flat out explanation on how you missed a note if you need it.
Crazy. So it's like a replay analyzer that you can use and see exactly how you went wrong in a map.
Yeah, and it's free? Whoa.
You can Google OSU rewind. I'm pretty sure. Hold on. OSU rewind. Yep, and it's the first result? What?
Whoa.
And you
Yeah, you
can
guys should
download
try
it?
it. It's cool. But someone like me doesn't need Rewind because obviously I know exactly why I've missed every single time.
Yeah.
You know, actually Curtis asked me that question. He said, like when you miss, do you know why you missed? And I said yes. And
Oh,
like every time I know.
I feel like that comes from a lot of just, especially with hidden. If you're starting to learn hidden for the
Mm,
first time, like people who are pushing their reading ability, it's like I think the main frustration is like you just have no freaking clue what you did wrong. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if you have memories of like you mess up a run and you just like you watch the fail replay and you just like sit there while it speeds up and you get to the part where you missed just to see and you like slow it down at half speed because you can't make it
yeah.
slower than that. Yeah, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Rewind's cool. Download it.
yeah, for people who aren't as attuned
Yeah.
to what exactly they did wrong, those who don't have their soulmate sitting on their right shoulder at all times, I think that's another definitely useful option. So I'm sure we'll see many more brain nuggets of yours in the future, especially throughout all your epic YouTube content that's coming up. Oh, did you see this is actually very new, based on the timeline of when we were recording this, but the like YouTube handles, like the channel handles, did
Oh
you get a
yes.
message for that?
I think I
A
got it on my
notification?
main channel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's go.
I mean, isn't there already like you can, just have YouTube slash C slash whatever?
Yeah, you can, but it's a little, I guess it's a little finicky. And I guess harder to necessarily search people by that. I think
Oh.
having unique, and it's also not as trendy because like this is how TikTok does it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think just sort of maintaining that structure, especially I think it makes sense, especially because like if you're trying to conquer the same target audience or the same market as TikTok versus YouTube Shorts, I think it makes sense to keep it consistent in that sense.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, they're cool though. I like that YouTube's making Well, platforms are always trying to, find innovative things, even if they're copying each other. But at least they're changing stuff.
Well, with that, I'm sure your handle is at xootynator.
Yeah, it is.
Oh my god, it was such a lucky guess. So, do you have any final words of wisdom as we wrap up today?
um, no, yes. As I always say, join OC University, like and subscribe the YouTube channel. There's actually so much information now that you're uploading all these talks to YouTube. There's literally so much information from so many different players. I even watch them every so often, um, to see what people's brains are thinking and like just learn. It's a hub to learn. So this place is really cool. Thanks, Habib,
Yeah,
as always.
thank you as always as well for giving us your time and wonderful insights as always. I think this episode, this interview with you specifically was a little less OSU focused per se, but I think it helps to give a very broad perspective, mostly for you because you've done many different talks here before. I think things start to get repetitive if we ask the same questions. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think we did a good job here, kind of balancing the two and answering the viewer questions. But yes, thanks as always for being here and being so supportive of everything that is going on. And yeah, I'm sure your other social handles are also at xootynator.
Yeah, pretty much everything. Like my new Instagram posts, and I uploaded on my Clips channel today, so there's that if you want more of me. But I'll be around as always.
Let's go. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see you all next time.
Thanks.